All right, 4.5 part 2. Now we're going to be looking at more pieces to our sine and cosine. So here we have y equals a sine bx minus c plus d. And it's going to be the same thing as if I had cosine. All right, c represents our horizontal shift. When it comes to our graph, though, we have to have a beginning and an end. So our horizontal shift is also going to give us our boundaries. And for sine and cosine, they're the exact same boundaries. The boundaries are 0 and 2 pi. So that means we're going to set bx minus c equal to 0 and bx minus c equal to 2 pi and solve for x. That's going to give us our boundaries, our beginning and our end location of our picture. The d is going to be our vertical shift. And whenever we do our graphs, we always need 5 points. So we're going to start with y equals 2 sine 3x minus pi plus 1. And you're going to come up with all of the pieces. All right, so the first thing we know is a is 2. Next thing we know, b is 3. But that means the period, or one wavelength, the amount that will complete one wave, is 2 pi over b, or 360 over b, which means it's 2 pi over 3, or 120 degrees. C, well, we have to do our boundary, so we're going to set it equal to 0 and 2 pi. So 3x is pi, so x is pi over 3. 3x is 3 pi, so x is pi. That's our beginning and ending boundary of our picture. And then d means we're going to shift up 1. All right, now when we go to make this picture, we're going to start on a normal grid, our normal xy. We know this is 2. We know this is negative 2. All right. So then we're going to have our pi over 3, and we're going to have pi, because we know that's our beginning and that's our end. If it's a sine wave, we know it's on those points. Okay. Again, we're going to worry about shifting afterwards. So right now, this is just our 0 point. With our sine wave, according to the properties, halfway between is a 0, halfway is an amplitude, halfway is the other amplitude. You have to have your 5 points. You need to have these all labeled. So we need to find half of pi over 3 and pi, of which you can either change them to degrees and then find the correlation, or you can just work with your pi's and pi's over 3's and divide by 2, pi plus pi over 3 divided by 2. So that makes 3 pi over 3, which is 4 pi over 3 divided by 2, which means multiply by half, which means that we get 2 pi over 3 is halfway in between. All right, now you have to do another half and half. Pi over 3 plus 2 pi over 3 divided by 2. Well, that's 3 pi over 3 divided by 2, which is pi over 2. And then you do it again for 2 pi over 3 and pi. 2 pi over 3 plus pi divided by 2, Well, that's 5 pi over 3 divided by 2, which is 5 pi over 6. You must have all 5 points labeled. You don't really have to be doing all that work. However, if there's any kind of partial credit, you're going to want to have it. But you must have your 5 points labeled. We're going to draw it in. Okay. So now the only thing that's missing is this shift up. What we do is that we go back and erase this line, and we shift it up. All of these points are going to be moved up one. So basically what we're actually doing is we're moving our line down one in order to move all of our line up one. So when you're done, you're going to go back and you're going to erase this 0 line, and we're going to move it up. So this is actually going to be at the point of 1. These are at the point 1. And then this down here is actually -1. So that 0 is about here. So all you need to do though is go back and just erase that line. You have a pencil that can erase. And that's how we're going to do the shift up and down. Go back and move that vertical or move that horizontal beginning line. Okay, let's try it again. Negative y equals -6 plus cosine 4x. Now, be careful with this. This is actually my D. Just because it was written in front doesn't change it. Because I can rewrite this as y equals cosine 4x minus 6. And it's the exact same values. A is always multiplied. So in this case, A is 1, B is 4, which means the period is pi over 2 or 90 degrees, depending on which measurement we're going in. C is 4x equal to 0 and 4x equal to 2 pi. So x is 0 and x is to pi over 2. Those are my boundaries, my beginning and my ends. And D is down 6. Okay? So here we're going to start. Again, just a generic line. And because we're going to have a move, I have it really, really light here. You'll be able to erase it, but we know that we're going to be starting at 0. We know we're going to pi over 2. We know halfway between 0 and pi over 2 should be pi over 4. Hopefully we know that one without too much problems. And then half of pi over 4 and 0 is pi over 8. If you need to do the math, go ahead and do it on the side. And halfway between pi over 4 and pi over 2 is 3 pi over 8. Alright, when it comes to cosine, we know it starts up, goes through, comes down, goes up, and ends at the same location. So that's my wave. But because I am shifting and moving it, this is not at 1 like on our traditional A picture here. We're going to be moving it down 6. So that means this is actually -5. And this bottom value is -7. That means up here is 0. And that's all we need to do. Put in our zero line, put our proper amplitudes in, how high and low does it go according to our shifts, and then just go back and move that zero line. One more time. Okay, so for this one, we get A is 3, we get B is 2 pi, therefore the period is 2 pi over 2 pi, which is 1. C is my boundary, so 2 pi x plus 4 pi is 0, 2 pi x plus 4 pi is 2 pi. When I solve this, I get 2 pi x equals negative 4 pi, so x is negative 4 pi divided by 2 pi, which is negative 2. 2 pi x is negative 2 pi, x is negative 2 pi divided by 2 pi, which is negative 1. So that's my beginning and end point. And then D, there is none. Okay, so when I go through and put together my picture here, this time I'm starting at negative 2 and negative 1. Halfway, negative 1.5. Halfway, negative 1 3/4. Halfway, negative 1 1/4. It is cosine, so I am starting down at negative 3, and I'm ending at negative 3. My middle, I am up. My middles, I'm in between. And connect your dots. And that's your cosine. That is shifted to the left in this case. Alright, the very last thing we need to be able to do is go backwards. You need to be able to tell an amplitude, a vertical shift, and a period. So the A, the B, and the D from a picture. The C we really don't worry about too much. The quiz and test that you have is you need to be able to find an A, B, and D shift from a picture, give me the equation, picture, give me equation, or equation, give me the picture. So that's what you need to be able to do with the last part of 4.5.